Thank you for joining us today for the virtual Sunday service with the Center for Creative Living. CCL, a charter of the Universal Church of the Master, has served and supported the spiritual needs of its community here in the Bay Area for over 20 years.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. I know with a 3-day holiday, quite often people travel to different places, and we really do appreciate it. And Gabrielle, our church has started, and we can hear you. And for those of you, if this is the first time you're tuning in on the, I wanted to say the TV. You see how old I am. If you're turning into Zoom, we want to welcome you and thank you so much for being here. We really do appreciate it. And it's always hard to say we're celebrating Memorial Day. We're honoring Memorial Day. This is a very unusual day when many people who had loved ones in the service. I was talking on the way into church that in my generation, we've had more wars in the United States than any other generation.
Yes.
So, and that is just one of those things. It's remarkable. We've constantly been talking about war. Both Joan and I were here on the planet when World War II started, and then from there on, it seems like we have lost people through war so many times in so many different areas of the world where they have passed away. I brought in a picture of my dad, and that's Dell Falls, Falls. And he was the youngest captain in the Pacific during the Second World War. He was only 22. And
he's cute.
Yeah, he's cute, I know. He knew it too. And at last count through DNA, one of my brothers has figured that he fathered 16 children. So he was cute and a good dancer. So, and 6'5". So he'd been married 5 times. So but beyond that, being in the military took him from being a 21, 22, 23, 24-year-old and really made him an organizer and a man. And so he talked about the military very briefly. He didn't dwell on any of the horror of it. He just told fun stories and the things that had happened to him in the Philippines. And he was making it light. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I have been around people who were in the military and they want to talk about all the agony and the grief and the horror of it. And I think that's probably a lot better because my father had all sorts of nightmares, and he had one time tried to get out through the side of the house. He had to get away from whatever the terror was because he never did acknowledge it so he could release it. So if you see anybody or you know anybody who was in the military, like one of my brothers was in Black Hawk Down, in Special Forces, and he had seen a lot of gore. And I had a sister who was in the Air Force, and another brother who was in the Air Force. So we're a very military family. And each one of them had a different idea of what it was like to be in the military. So today we're honoring those people that have gone to war to fight for not only what they believe in, but usually what their parents believed in. So we're going to talk quite a bit about that because I'm talking about prayer. And the two do go together, you'll see later on. So right now, I want to ask, anybody have a birthday this week besides Jeannie? Jeannie, where'd she go? There you are.
No, I'm December.
You're December. Well, thank you. I'll tell my appointment book to erase your name. Anybody? No birthdays? Oh my gosh, there again, we're not getting any older. I love it. Anybody have any announcements they'd like to make? Now, when is this psychic fair coming up, Joan?
That's June 8th.
Okay.
June
did you want to mention something about it? And you can put your coffee right here if you want. There you go.
It's from 11 to 4, and it's down on Cottle Road. I don't have the exact address right here, but Dottie had it in the newsletter, and we'll put it again on the newsletter. I'll be I have a table. I'll be doing past life and psychic readings. Christine, did you get a table?
Yes.
Yeah, Christine, and I think Marie's going to share my table. And my son-in-law, Rick Hager, who does amazing things with crystals and readings, is going to be sharing my table. So you might want to come and meet him. He has 4 speakers. Julie Hawkins is one of the 4, and she talks about the Akashic Records. So it's going to be well worth attending. Is it free? I believe it's free. Is that right?
I don't know if it's free to get in. Ruth will be sharing a table with me.
Okay. So we have a good representation there. So to help this, there's different ways you can help. Number 1 is you can come 11 to 4, even if you just come for an hour, and bring a friend or announce it to your friends, invite friends. This is the beginning. This is the first time he's done this, and I met him last week, and he's just really excited about doing it, and it's the first time he's done it, and he's looking forward to doing it more often and having it as a part of his ministry. So I want to take him. So anyway, I'll be there. I hope you'll join me. Both my husbands were in the Navy. Let's go around the room. Do you have family that was in the service?
That's exactly what I was going to do. You are really good at this. Go.
Well, Christine, who was in your...
My dad.
Your dad, your husband was in the service also.
Yeah, that's right.
Jeremy.
Yeah, my dad was in the Air Force.
Yeah. Who else? Jeannie.
My father was in the Navy, nephews, Air Force.
Who else? I see a hand back there.
Mary, Dad was in the Army, and he was in the Philippines too. And my husband was in the Navy.
Live out World War II in Korea.
My mother was in the Navy and worked in the Pentagon as an intelligence officer. My father was a Marine major in a Mustang.
Wow.
Who got his rank coming up. My maternal grandfather was a colonel in the Air Force and went to West Point. And let's see, my grandmother's one of the husbands died in the Philippines. So both parents and their lineage it goes back to the Civil War.
Interesting. And Ed, did you have your hand up?
No, I was touching my ear.
And I have
Dottie?
Chris Brown.
Chris Brown.
Yeah, my dad was on a PT boat with John Kennedy, but not 107 and not in that island. But one of the cars I drive, I still have his plate PT-59. And I spent 3 months in spy school learning Russian. It was part of a 2-year program in ROTC, but you had to commit after 2 years. So I just took advantage of learning Russian down in Monterey at spy school. And then I decided that the Army was not for me. I don't follow rules well.
In case you couldn't hear that, Chris spent 3 months in spy school. Wow. You should do a talk on that, Chris.
Right.
And Dottie?
Yeah, my great-great-great-grandfather was a drummer boy in the Civil War.
Oh, interesting. So we have a lot of military.
Before that, somebody signed the
Oh, yeah, my great ancestor signed the Declaration of Independence. His name's Josiah Bartlett.
And this is God. I will give it back to Ed. Okay, sorry about that.
What service was God in?
Universal.
Be good.
Okay, so from Annie Corbin, good morning, everyone. My father and pop were in the Navy, and my stepdad was in the Air Force.
Great.
Anybody else online there?
Yeah.
That's it. Both my husbands had light duty. One was an aerial photographer, John was an aerial photographer, and Earl, my second husband, was a radio man and flew supply routes to Manila, around there. So, but it's interesting, the military gives you a new dimension in life, your military experience, I think. I just finished 2 books. One was called The Women, and it's the nurses in Vietnam and the extreme horror that they went through and how they managed. And when they went to get help, the VA said, well, there were no women in Vietnam. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, wow. So they were denied a lot of help. And the second book that I just finished, that the name has escaped me right now, is the story of 2 French sisters in France living and surviving World War II, which is a very timely reminder of the power of the Reich and the German influence. So we have a lot to be thankful for in today, in the history of our families serving, our nation serving, in keeping order and just giving what they need to give to help that. Okay.
Thank you so much, Joan. Really do appreciate it. Next week is the first week in June. And the second week in June, we will not be having CIG, the Center for Infinite Growth. I got a text from Reverend Mary Gary, and her cardiologist has said, you're working too much. Just slow it down. And so she said she's sorry, but CIG will not be meeting here. So we're going to be doing some different things and looking at, we were talking to, Joan might take it over, so I would have, we'll help her if that's what happens. Looking at everybody's a minister. And one of the greatest ways to feel ministerial is to stand up here and start a service and help put a service together and help get speakers in that. So we're working on that, and it could be that we just parcel it out. And Joan would be the minister for one Sunday, and then the next Sunday somebody else could be. So we're still talking it out and looking at my board, and so that we can figure out how we're going to be doing this. So stay tuned. I think new and exciting things are coming up. Oh, great. What I wanted to talk about Memorial Day, because it started out as Decoration Day. And I don't know if any of you remember that, because it was so interesting. And so keep that idea in your head, because I'm going to do a meditation. And when I do the meditation, I want you to realize this is Decoration Day we're celebrating. And if we could just have a little background music. Brianna was conscripted, talked about service. We called and said, would you volunteer to come? Our Reverend Janet has some other things going on, and we're so glad that you said yes, Minister Brianna.
Okay. I know everything has to be original. I see how Warriors of the Heart fits better with the theme.
No, for a meditation?
No,
for your song later, a little bit later, okay. And right now, if you could all just put your feet flat on the floor and close your eyes. And I want you to visualize walking through a graveyard. And this is a graveyard in the South. Many, many, many years ago, all the way back to the 1800s. And the Great War has been fought. And we are in the South. And many men were killed in the South who were from the North. So we have Yankees that when they died, a hole was dug and they were put in it. There was no special place, no special honoring. And the black community in the South decided to make sure that all these beings had a decent burial. And they built a graveyard. And they buried these men and named the graves as best they could and decorated them. And had a band to play, served food, and they had a celebration for the people who had helped make the Confederacy lose, really. But when they did the decoration day, I want you to feel that energy. So follow the sound of my voice as we walk through a graveyard. And right now it's calm and peaceful. And you notice the names on the gravestones. And you think of these men who have fought for freedom. And some names, whether it be Paul or Robert or Richard or John, know that these are these men who were virtually in a foreign land at the time that they were killed. But now, thanks to a group of dedicated people, men, women, and children, they are being honored. So place yourself in a graveyard, wherever it may be, whether it's a local one, or whether it's a one back east or in the Midwest. Just gently walk through and look at the monuments and check out the gravestones. Look at all the stars, all of the crosses, all of the identifying markers on these graves. But most of all, feel the energy of the loved ones who were laid to rest after fighting for freedom for the United States. And visualize this when a sun-shining day like today. And as you walk and you look at the different graves, as all of you are so wonderfully intuitive, feel the love that has been showered on these beings now that they've been identified. And send love for a job well done. And thank them for their service, just as we thank all the people who were mentioned at the beginning today for their service. And when you're ready, just come back to the room and sit quietly and open your eyes. Thank you, Brianna. How did that feel?
Okay, great, thank
Could any of you feel the energy of a graveyard? It's amazing. Nowadays, we're finding that fewer and fewer people are being buried because of for so many different reasons. But when my children were young and we were traveling, we traveled for a year around the United States. with two young kids in a small trailer. And anytime we wanted to just let them roam, we'd stop at a graveyard. Because they could yell and scream and nobody cared. And they also learned to read. And they would come back and say, Mom, there's somebody who died and they were only three. And yeah. Oh, Mom, and they could read. And they were so impressed by the fact of what was going on, and people had died at different ages. But they loved counting the American flags. So they learned to read and they learned to count in a graveyard. For me, it's a precious place to be. I've never been scared by a ghost. Somebody said, well, there's ghosts in a graveyard. I said, only if a dead guy fell over from digging a grave. I mean, when our spirit leaves, we don't hang around graveyards, so don't let them be scary places. So I love the idea that how this was started, the Decoration Day. How many of you had heard that term before? Yeah, it used to be used, and what happened is that was used until they started using the word Reconciliation Day in 1870. And then finally they decided by Congress, after World War I, it was changed to Memorial Day to include all wars everywhere. And so that's why we have this special time. And there were so many atrocities, and not just by the enemy. War is never easy. War is never simple. Even while you're fighting it isn't. And so I want you to think of that today, that those soldiers who served in the various branches of the military are becoming more and more females than they've ever been before. And these women are strong. And as Joan was mentioning, reading about people who are women in the service, it's meaningful to have this day for all those men. But also, don't forget the women who have worked. And the prejudice of women were shown by the other soldiers when they first started being in the service. They've come a long way. Thank goodness we now have female generals and things like that. And so that we can see the representation of women and what's going on. And not only is it meaningful to have this day to celebrate, but know that it's a very spiritual time. When somebody says, what religion are you? And you say, I'm spiritual. And they say, well, how do you celebrate? Well, some spiritual people go to church, but a lot of spiritual people pray. And that's what we're going to be talking about today is prayer. And how you pray, when you pray, and why you pray, okay? And before I do that, I want to leave this topic a bit and say, read what Abraham Lincoln said in the closing words of his first inaugural address. We are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. Though passion may have strained it, must not break our bonds of affection. The mystic cords of memory, stretching from every battlefield and patriot grave to every living heart in Hearthstone, all over this broad land, will yet swell the chorus of the Union, when again touched, as surely they will be, by the better angels of our nature. Sounds pretty spiritual, doesn't it? Just think of being touched by the angels of our nation. So at this point, I would like to ask Brianna to play a song that she has written. Poor baby, I didn't give her time to warm up her guitar. How are you doing?
This is fine.
Okay.
I wanted to tell everybody the song I would wish I could play, since we have to play things that are not copyrighted. I want you to know about it and listen to it on YouTube, because it was written from a poem written by a World War II nurse. And it was set to music by John Gorka, Gorka. It's called Let Them In, and it's a prayer. And it's heart-piercing. Let them in, Peter.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. Let them in.
Let Them In by John Gorka. So I am such a gentle-hearted person to come from a lineage of warriors like I do. I realize that my warrioring is a warrioring of peace and of kindness and
I love that. A warring of peace.
a warrioring of peace of standing in that. You know, and in my work, I'm dealing with substance use and mental health disorders. But we did like masks, you know, as one of the art activities, and this mask that men wear of being tough is very damaging to them. And when they're trying to put that face that I'm tough and I don't have any feelings, that's often those people that are, they can be very sensitive. And I didn't know how sensitive these men could be and how they get messed up. So I guess that's part of my warrioring, is helping these people heal from, you know, not being able to be their real selves.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Okay. So this is called Warriors of the Heart, and you've heard it before, I think, somewhere.
It bears repeating.
So now you've tasted freedom, you've journeyed through the darkness, had to face your demons, warriors of the heart. Warriors of the heart. Bless the world with compassion, spirit, love, and joy are never out of fashion. Warriors of the heart. Warriors of the heart. It's in the plan to make mistakes, so the next choice you make can lead to freedom. Ooh, lead to freedom. Ooh, forgive others and yourselves. We're all here for the healing to return to light and health. Warriors of the heart. Warriors of the heart. Warriors of the heart. Warriors of the heart.
Thank you so very much. How many of you think of yourself as a warrior of the heart? Yeah, yeah. And isn't that beautiful when you think of that? You're fighting for love. It's a very, very positive. Thank you so much. And I love having our new minister share. It's great. You know, and keeping with remembrances, I would like to share some passages of reflection and prayer. These are taken from writings or traditions of several faiths, because we all, whatever our faith, we have things that we want to talk about and how we honor those who have gone. In the Upanishads, it's Hindu writings, it says, lead us from unreality to reality. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to life. That's kind of being a warrior of the heart, isn't it? It sounds like, oh, yeah. And our wonderful Amina is going to be reading an Islamic prayer Or would you kind of come up here and you should have the prayer with you?
Okay. Is it on one of these?
No, I handed it to you when you first walked in. Yeah. Find it?
Right here? Thank you.
If you can't find it, I've got it right here.
That would be great.
Okay. And it says Almana.
Perfect. Praise to the Lord of the universe, who has created us and made us into tribes and nations, that we may know each other, not that we may despise each other, and trust God, for God is the one that hears and knows all things. And most gracious are the servants of God, who walk on the earth in humility. When we address them, we should say peace. Islamic prayer.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
printing
you.
that.
Now, isn't that not at all what you hear people saying? Well, those Islams, they think so-and-so. When their prayers are about peace. And I really feel it's time for us to appreciate different groups and how they handle a lot of the things that are going on. And Chris Brown, I'd like you to read something that's from the Hebrew Book of Wisdom. And if you want to say a few words beforehand, that's fine too. I've never known Chris to be at a loss for words, so I like.
You know me so well. Why, yes. What I wanted to say is, I've been here 11 years. And what was important to me when I came here was the ability to worship. I know that sounds really odd, but apparently that was important to me because there was some other secular things I was doing, but there was this other piece that needed to be fed. And what I'm hearing today is that this is also a place where we honor. We actively honor. And I'm so appreciative of that, to be able to come and actively honor. So thank you. This is from the Hebrew Book of Wisdom. The souls of the just are in the hand of God, and no torment shall touch them. They seemed, in the view of the foolish, to be dead, and their passing away was thought an affliction, and their going forth from us utter destruction. But they are in peace.
Thank you so very much. Now, don't you think it's interesting to have what's going on in the world and to have somebody stand up here who is Islamic and somebody stand up here with a Jewish background? And we coexist. We're not saying you're wrong because you don't believe in God the way I do. Both these beautiful women believe in God the way they feel is important to them. And that's what spirituality is all about. I have something I read from the New Testament, which you all have heard. Greater love has no better than this, has no one better than this, that one lay down his life for his friends. I think that is the greatest gift anybody can do. But sometimes it's not your physical life. It's your anger. It's your frustration. It's your disappointment. It's your energy that's used to despise other people who are different. That's what all of these things are saying. Let it down. Let it go. We're in the midst of, politically, they're saying it might just divide the United States. We might have a North versus South, or Democrats versus Republicans, or whatever. So when you hear somebody's story, or you hear somebody's logic of why you should be who they are, think of that. Greater love has no one better than this. That one lay down his life for his friends, and say, it's not my physical life, it's my emotional and mental life. I don't have to stress and tell everybody what I feel. Just lay it down. Just put it down. You know how you feel. Why does anybody else have to find out how you feel? This is Dottie's rant, is you've never changed a person's mind by argument. Try it. Try and convince somebody who smokes to stop smoking and tell them it's going to kill them. Tell them it's going to, I don't care. But you're not going to change that person. And it's the same thing as with prejudice. Our wonderful Gabrielle came in, and there was a gentleman outside on the sidewalk who was yelling and screaming about anybody who comes in here is going to hell. They should be a Christian. And that sentence of you're going to hell because you're not a Christian is not something Jesus would have ever said. But do you think arguing with that man's going to change his mind? No, because he has his belief. So I want you to remember Memorial Day, because it's one of the things where we can honor those who have gone on. But always honor yourself. Honor the way you think, honor the way you live, honor the way you look, honor who you are. Very, very important. I did a memorial on Friday, and it was an honoring of these two women, two nice, hard-working women in their 70s. They had been good friends. One had been married and was divorced. And these two women had worked at a big company together. And at the end of their life, they were living together because they liked each other and to share money and all the things that we do. And I realized when I was in the house where they lived that this love was greater than just a liking. It was a love. They weren't lovers, they loved each other. And how many of you have friends like that, female friends or male friends? You love that person. Hey bro, I love you. You know? And how it feels. Neither of these women had had children. And the house was being cleared so that the trustee could sell it. And the majority of the proceeds of the sale of the house was going to charity. And so we were there, and I had said, why don't we record this memorial? Because each woman had family back east that was elderly and couldn't come out here. And so that's what we did. Well, on the way to the house, that's why I said, why don't we have it at their house? On the way to the house, I thought, oh, I love that Irish a poem, May the Wind Be at Your Back. It was just, I thought it was so great. I'll put it into what I'm going to say as memoriam. And we get there, and the woman who'd asked us to do this was playing Celtic music. And I thought, oh, that's perfect. And so, and we recorded this with various prayers. And I thought, you know, that love is strong. The love for a parent, for a child, is strong. The love of country is strong. The love of whatever religion is strong. Embrace it that these people love differently. Not something that you have to make them change the way they're doing something. And one of the things that I really liked was that everything that was done for this honoring, as I said, was sitting in this woman's recliner. You know, we quite often go off to a field somewhere or we go to a church, but to be in their home, and Corky was sitting, well, I forget what you were sitting on, a couch, yeah, and you could feel their energy. And I thought, I think this is something more people should have done. Is don't take them and they're both of their ashes had been intertwined and were put in the garden. So here we are where they are, if you want to feel it that way. And it brought to mind the fact that so many of our military, they were buried where they died. And we don't know how to get there. And it would be wonderful if somehow we could bless them. And that's why today I wanted you to all name the people who, and thank you, Joan, for doing that, name the people who had passed away. Because some of them we don't know and were never honored. So think of doing your own memorial for people after they leave. If you can't make it back east, or if you can't make it to the Philippines, or if you can't make it to wherever, please be able to bless them and release them. So this is a special day to honor family members. And we know that those that we love don't really leave us as long as they're in our heart, as you were talking about. And when you're a warrior of a heart, you protect those memories, don't you? How many times have you heard somebody tell a story and it's not the way you remember it? Any of you have that happen?
All the time.
And don't correct them. That's their memory. And if you say, oh, that wasn't 1951, it was 1952, oh, big deal. It's the story that's important. As I had heard, and I've heard repeatedly, somebody said, sometimes Dottie telling you a story is better than being there. And I don't think they're saying I lie, but they don't remember it that way, let's say. So what I want you to do is pay a visit to Source, whatever you call God, and thank them for everything you have and everything you will be given. How many times people pray for what they want, but not what they have? Think of all the things. Just think of the fact you walked in here today. Wow, hallelujah. I struggled, but I made it. But you start thinking the things that really, really count. And prayer is the holy process by which you quite often do that. But don't wait to pray for things. Just say them out loud. If you're driving down the street and you say, oh, thank God the light changed. Okay, or, oh, thank you, Lord. I really appreciate it. Or the appreciation is a prayer. And because, this is turning inward and just coming face to face with your highest self is when you pray. Your highest self puts these things out. So start looking at different ways that you can do it. Brianna does it through music. I had a grandmother that did it through sewing. When she made something for somebody, that was her highest purpose, to show that person how much they appreciate them. My grandmother on the other side baked things. We were always taking homemade goodies to people that Grandma had made for them. Her highest self, that's what she was good at. Think of what you're good at. And I have people say, oh, I'm not good at anything. Then be a good listener. How many times do you sit and listen to somebody thinking, I want to say something, I want to say something. I could tell them my story, and then you think, they need to tell that story. Being a good listener is one of the greatest prayers you can do. It's the same as listening to the Spirit. So think of putting out your energy. And, have you ever wondered if there's anybody there hearing your prayers, or if your prayers help? How many times do you have somebody say, so-and-so is sick, and you say, I'll pray for them? Any of you do that?
Yeah.
Okay, where do those prayers go? What happens? Well, I was lucky enough in the late 1950s, early 1960s, to see a video of Olga Worrell. I don't know how many of you have heard about her, but what she did, she was a psychic healer. And she said, we heal when we say prayers, but we need to direct it to what we want. And go online and you'll find many, many books by Olga Worrell and her husband also. And what she did, Worrall, Worrell. Worrall, Olga. And what she did on this film that I watched is there was a young man down the hall of a hospital, and he'd been in a coma for 10 days. And the mother had read her book and asked if she could come help this boy, really, he was in his early 20s, help him heal. Because the doctors had said if he didn't come out of the coma soon, they were going to cut off all life support. And she just knew he was alive, and she wanted to help him. So they had a picture of Olga praying, and the photographer was amazed because as she prayed, that he could see little yellow bubbles, and you could see them on the film, leaving her and going down the hall and entering the room, and the mother screaming, "He's alive!" He woke up. And it was like, whoa. And that's that thing called psychic spiritual healing that each one of you have. So when somebody says so-and-so is sick, and you say, I'll pray for them, don't just say it, do it. And it doesn't have to be a prayer that's been written or heard before. It can be like the music that Brianna shared. Something that comes from your heart is wonderful. And that, affirming picture and affirming feeling of prayer is absolutely amazing. So I want you to think of, this is a day where we're decorating all of the graves that we can think of mentally, prayerfully. Pray for all those people you know who have died in the military or who've died in your family. Start looking at ways that you can do a prayer. Someone once said, if people really understood the full extent of the power we have available through prayer, they might be speechless. Our prayers are the most powerful asset we have. And each one of you has a choice to get a sample prayer if you would like. And when somebody pass this, we're running a little bit short on time, but pass this and just grab one. Just trust and grab one. These are to show you that prayers don't have to be very long. Okay? A prayer, anytime you inhale, you can exhale a prayer. And and if you want, okay, Christine, could you read yours?
Mother, Father, God, allow me to see the good in all humanity.
Did you hear that? Mother, Father, God, let me see the good in all humanity. Christine.
Creator, please show me those whom I dislike and let me make amends.
How about that? Let me make amends. Okay, Jean.
Please, God, visit me today and stay by my side.
Great. Eileen.
Dear one, help me to accept my past and release all that is not worthy of you.
Whoa, ho, ho. Yes, Brianna.
Dear Creator, let me know you are there.
Oh, I like that. Quirky?
Oh, Holy One, help me renew my faith in people.
Hey. And banks. She just found out somebody scammed her bank. Yeah. Yes, Mary.
Spirit, help me cut the cords of self-destruction.
Ooh, very good. Yes, Amana.
Gracious One, I am with you, so you know you are with me.
Well, Jeremy.
Holy One, thank you for restoring my soul this morning.
Oh, you're welcome. And Lauren?
Lightbringer, remove the obstacles I have created for myself and shine the light onto my glory.
I can't hear it. One more time.
Lightbringer, remove the obstacles I have created for myself and shine the light on my glory.
Wow. And Ruth, did you get one?
Please take care of me today and give me courage to move forward.
Oh, and Chris Brown?
God, help me love myself.
Yeah. And there's somebody back there. Gabrielle, you got one.
Creator, help me make wise choices that will empower and free me.
Oh, yeah.
That's the best one.
That's because it's yours. You chose it. Think about that. Prayers don't have to be long.
So that's being distributed with the next insights, right?
What is going to be distributed?
The list of short prayers.
Okay.
Okay.
And so right now, Creator, I thank you for your presence. Grant me restful sleep and renew my strength for tomorrow. And so it is. And if you could, Mary, could you pass the basket? And Joan is going to read our donation prayer.
Well, I might read it. I might do something different.
Well, that's fine.
Do you all have money, a check, or something to hold in your hand? Because we're going to ask that it be multiplied.
Okay.
Who needs money?
Oh, that's a leading question.
No, do you all have something to hold in your hand?
Yes.
Okay. One of the ideas in the New Thought movement, which moved away from the Christian strict movement, is that we ask and we receive, and that wealth is good, and that there's a stream of money waiting for us. And so we're going to ask that this money that we're holding is going to multiply. So here we go. I'm going to say it. I live in a world of prosperity. Say it. I live in a world of prosperity. This prosperity, this money that I'm holding right now, multiplies.
This prosperity, this money I'm holding right now,
multiplies for me.
For me.
For my church.
For my church.
For the world.
For the world.
I love it.
And so it is?
And so it is.
Thank you so very much. Wow. I like the way Mary kind of tiptoes. You're so cute when you do the basket. Yeah. Thank you so very much. And Mary, could you read this for us right here?
Okay. I give thanks for my spiritual community.
I give
Thanks for our spiritual community.
I live in a world of freedom and abundance.
I live in a world of freedom and abundance.
I am happy to support my spiritual community.
I am happy to support my spiritual community.
Thank you, Universal Spirit, for your love and support.
Thank you, Universal Spirit, for your love and support.
And so it is.
Yay, and so it is. Thank you, Mary. Oh, and thank you all for helping us put on church today. I really do appreciate Brianna. I don't know what she had planned for Sunday, but she got a call yesterday saying, last night, yes, help, could you come play your guitar? And to hear you play a song that you wrote yourself that was so beautiful. Thank you so very much. And I want to thank you, Amina and Chris, for reading prayers from your faith. And thank you, Corky, for getting me up this morning. And Thank you so much, Ed. We couldn't do it without you. Yay! Woohoo! Yes. And it's just wonderful having you here. And Gabrielle, thank you for chasing the wild Christian away. She was out there negotiating, and we so appreciate it. And we have coffee and we have cookies. And Ed, who's on Zoom?
We are complete. Do you know why?
What, everybody left us?
No. From Sky to everyone. I love you, Mama Boon. And from Patty and Joyce, thank you to the person working sound. Thank you, Dottie, Brianna, Joan, and all for a great service.
Woo-hoo.
And I return it back to you.
Well, I think that's going to be it. I think all of you recognize this flag. This is a flag that was on the casket of my uncle, who was one of the fighters. I'm going to mention this, we're running a little bit over, but this was interesting. During World War II, he was what did they call him? The person who flew one airplane. And strafed, and they had dogfights and all of that. He was in a fighter plane. He was a fighter pilot, and had been born in Germany. And they gave him a notice: you're going to strafe this village, and it was a village he'd been raised in. And he said no, and they said you have to, or you're out of the force. And he goes, no. And so they said, right now, sir. And he goes, okay. And he strafed, but he didn't strafe the village. There was a place over there that was just bare land, and he just unloaded all of his rounds. And he came back and he said, I want to talk about this. And based on that, his name was Lieutenant Grasshoff. And my uncle and the Congress made a ruling that nobody ever had to bomb or strafe their own village they came from. And it just goes to show, hold on to your ideals and then fight for them. And that's what he did. And Louis was just this wonderful, wonderful man. Loved him dearly because he always bought me marzipan from Germany. I think I loved him for other reasons too. But this is a flag, because when he got back to the States, he was a trainer, and he was training jet pilots, and he had a young guy, and the plane caught on fire. And he said, you've got to jump. And he said, no. And he said, you've got to jump. And the kid said, no. And he picked him up, pulled his ripcord and tossed him out of the plane. But it was too late for him. His parachute caught on fire. And we know all that because the kid, when he landed, realized that his hesitation. So what our family did is we sent him a note saying it wasn't your fault, don't worry about it, type thing. But that I'm so proud of that flag for my uncle. Thank you all so very much for being here. I do appreciate it. Thank you. And who do we have next week?
You. I mean her.
You mean Christine?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
What are you talking about?
The power of positive thinking.
Good.
Yay.
Yeah, that just comes right along, doesn't it? Hey, people might think we planned that. People might be wrong. Okay, thank you so very much.